It's time for Operation Freedom with your host, Dr. Dave Janda, on Southeast Michigan's conservative powerhouse, Wham Talk 1600.
Thanks for tuning in, folks, and welcome back to Wham Talk 1600's Operating Theater. It's the only OR in all talk radio. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from Wham Talk 1600's Freedom Bunker. We're hidden deep inside the People's Republic of Ann Arbor, and we're here every Sunday for you from 2 to 5 Eastern. Now, you're going to want to download this information. Why? Because the information we provide you will not see, hear, read, or experience through the bought-off, lamestream, fake media. Why? Because that same media is owned and operated by that syndicate that wants to strip you of your freedoms and liberties. Folks, it becomes very simple. With the help, support, and brilliance of Derek Stone, this show will be up in podcast form for you at davejanda.com by 9 p.m. tonight. This is not a spectator sport. This is where you come in. Go to the website, download the show, and network this information to anyone and everyone you know. The more people we have educated, the more people we have empowered, and the sooner we wrestle back our freedoms and liberties from the globalist syndicate that is doing everything in their power to strip you of those same freedoms and liberties. Folks, every week in our operating room, we dissect current events that are impacting you, your family, your business, our community, and our country. And we bring to our operating room information and guests the bought-off, lamestream, fake media either ignores because it doesn't fit into their preconceived, politically correct, bought-off agenda. Because, folks, they're petrified. They're petrified of what might happen if they actually tell you what you need to know. This show is about your freedom, your political, your economic, your financial, and your health care freedom. Busy week for Dave Janda this week. I ended up guest hosting four shows on the Caravan to Network platform. The regular host, the iconic John B. Wells, had an emergency develop. I was supposed to start with 2 shows this week, ended up doing 4. Caravan to Midnight family was very, very kind to me. We had great reviews. We had 4 great shows. The Caravan to Network is a platform that is a very cost-effective subscription service. $5 a month. Come on. $5 a month. And unbelievable programming. And John B. Wells has 4 shows a week. I have 2 shows a week. And we can go a little bit deeper in the rabbit hole on a subscription service than we can on the terrestrial radio, if you will, folks. We had great guests this week with great insight. It's very easy to sign up. Go to caravantomidnight.com, and you can sign up John B. Wells for $5 a month, the special. And on the little code, promo code, put small letters, Janda, Janda, you get half off. And then my subscription service for my 2 shows, which will be on Monday and Thursday evening starting this week, will be up for you to purchase as of tonight, I believe. caravantomidnight.com. You know, folks, we cover a wide range of economic and financial issues on this show. And the one issue that we really haven't covered in any significant depth has been real estate. And many of you have asked for us to bring an expert to the floor that has an unparalleled track record when it comes to real estate and the investment aspect of real estate. Now, I have had the fortunate opportunity of knowing this individual for a number of years. I also have the fortunate background to tell you that his track record and his analysis of the real estate industry and markets are second to none. Let me introduce you to him. John Bogdasarian. He's CEO and founder of an organization called the Promanas Group, Promanas. The Promanas Group is a privately held commercial real estate investment firm led by John. The company focuses on creating real estate investment vehicles designed specifically for accredited investors. John has been in the commercial real estate arena since 1996 and has a wealth of experience in acquiring, syndicating, syndicating, funding, brokering, investing in, and developing various projects. John holds a real estate license, a broker license, a CCIM designation, and John has been a featured speaker at real estate conferences around the world where he has enjoyed sharing his wealth of knowledge, which he will do today, his experience, and his enthusiasm for the real estate industry. John and his lovely wife, Lindsay, reside in Ann Arbor with their 4 children. John, welcome to Operation Freedom. John? Well, it looks like we've lost John, and we are going to attempt to get him back. You know, one of the big problems in the real estate investment world is that, you know, what's fact and what's fiction. You know, we are in a situation where the real estate market has increased significantly, not just around the Ann Arbor area, but around the country. We have John back. John, are you with us?
I am, Doc. How are you?
Hey, great, John. So, John, educate our listeners. I gave your introduction. Educate our listeners on the Promanus Group.
Well, we're primarily just a straight private equity real estate company, and we're just opportunistic. So we're kind of a situationally driven company where we look for a specific situation where we can either add value or construct something or buy and improve something in order to generate return for our accredited investors. We started out, well, I think you know the story a little bit, but I started out maybe with 7 family and friends as investors, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago now. And now we have hundreds and millions of square feet, and basically we're solely real estate based, no businesses, just real estate.
So, John, I brought you to the forefront of our show that covers our entire country, our listenership, actually around the world through the internet. We have huge listenership. And many folks had requested that we try to get someone that is kind of the guru, if you will, in the real estate world, and which is why you're with us today. So, John, first let's look at the, if you will, I know you do commercial, but you also have a really great handle on the real estate market. You know, the real estate market in the Ann Arbor area, I'm familiar with the Nashville area, also the Austin area, is booming, and it's been booming around the country. Is that still the case, or are we starting to cool down a little bit?
No, I'd say that's still the case predominantly in almost every market that is, I would say, you know, I don't know how you describe markets, but anything that's not like a straight impoverished community that has substantial hurdles to get over that, you know, are very difficult to get over, such as like, say, you know, around Michigan, Jackson, Michigan, or Detroit, which just has, you know, all sorts of blight, and, you know, those are just weird circumstances. But barring that, any normalized market at this point in time is very, very supply constrained, and there's excess demand that has just been built up in the system, right? And it's logical because if you consider the cycle, I mean, for the past 10 years, nobody's been able to build anything, right? I mean, so, and home prices were down, and there were foreclosures, and so people, you know, had to rent and moved into apartments, and meanwhile, nobody's building anything new. Nobody's creating any kind of supply for people to move into, from condominiums, single-family homes. The only thing that's been getting built, in fact, are apartments. And now most of the top apartment guys that I know are starting to rein it in a little bit in the apartment sector, because the next thing to happen would be condominiums and single-family homes, and I think you're seeing the very beginning of the development cycle again. And that's slow to get going. Very slow to get going, and everybody says, "Oh no, it's going crazy! It's going crazy! It's gonna pop, or it's a bubble." And I'm like, no, the fundamentals are there. If you think about it, it takes 2 years to get entitlements to a project and get the infrastructure in so that you have a lot that you can sell to somebody, and then a year from there to build a house on it. And it's not like we can just snap our fingers and find, you know, people with thousands and thousands of acres of property that want to sell all of a sudden and let developers come in and do all of this. So, you know, it's a slow process. And then what's happening right now is we are actually labor constrained as well. Like in Denver, where we're building, we're doing a hotel in downtown Denver. We have 2 pretty substantial condo communities that we're building there. And every day we get hit with guys literally just walking off the site because they get a job somewhere else that will pay them more. And we've got to find another framing crew or another, plumbing subcontractor to come in, and you're paying more and more. And there's just nobody to fill those jobs.
So, John, I heard from several folks, listeners, and we gave them a heads up that the guru of real estate, John Bogdasarian, was going to be with us today. And he said, some of these folks, John, got burned in the 2008 time period where they were fairly big into real estate, kind of doing the whole flipping thing, buying and kind of flipping, right? And they were like, well, housing pricing has been going up, and, is it too late not to be flipping houses, but to essentially say, okay, I've been renting for an extended period of time. I think this might actually go into what you were saying about the guys who are doing apartment rentals, but they're saying, I've been renting for a number of years because I've been licking my wounds, getting my cash back up so I could reinvest in a home, but I'm afraid because prices have been going up that I'm getting in at the top again.
Yeah, so that's, the fixing your credit, too. A lot of people had banged up credit. A lot of people got hammered in a downturn. And, that's obviously if you could have bought 4 years ago, I would have said buy 4 years ago. I've been telling anybody who can, even buy on land contract. Wait, don't wait for the credit report to get cleaned up. Like, this is opportunistic. But so here's what I always advocate, because people always say this, how do I make money in real estate, or should I buy a home or sell a home or whatever? Mm-hmm. Stick to the fundamentals. You put a decent down payment down and you buy what you need to live in. Don't live way beyond your means. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about primary residence, single-family homes are basically a forced savings account is how I've always looked at it. Mm-hmm. And you know how fast time goes by. It's crazy. So if you can buy a house that you're going to be in for at least 5 years, preferably longer. But if you're bopping around from community to community, it doesn't make sense, right? Because every time you sell, there's a transition cost, there's cost of sales, there's things you find when you buy the house that you didn't realize you have to fix up or replace a roof, and so it's expensive to churn. Mm-hmm. So from a primary residence standpoint, if you're going to be there a long period of time, buy something you can afford. Get a fixed interest rate. If you can do it on a 15-year AM, do it on 15. If you need to go 30, go 30. But just get it fixed for that time frame, because interest rates are just incredibly low. People say, "Oh, my interest rate's all the way up to 4%." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Anything sub 8 is a gift, Mm-hmm. So yeah, fix the interest rate a long period of time and then don't think about it. And absolutely buy a house now. You're going to be paying more for it in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. All the inflation that everyone's been talking about that they thought would come is just beginning. Real estate's very, very slow. It's a 30-year cycle. So everybody's guessing on this and that. We are at the beginning of the uptick. We will have 7 to 10 years of price appreciation. Now, that does not mean I would never advise my clients to run out and start flipping houses unless they had a very unique way of doing it. Like, if you have a skill set that allows you to do that, and that's your job. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, maybe you have intimate knowledge of a market, and you get these crummy foreclosures in your market, and you can do the work yourself or something. You're really buying yourself a job there. But when you're talking about flipping or putting down deposits on 10 new houses and hoping that they're worth more, that's what people were doing in 2007 and 8. I was telling them not to then. I was saying, you're crazy, because the market doesn't actually have to go down for you to lose money in that situation. All it has to do is flatten for a period of time. And it doesn't have to be that long. It can be 6 months to a year where you don't get any price appreciation. Now you're locked into all these deposits. You can't spin out of it. And bad idea if you're following what I'm talking about. So fundamentally, we also look at, here's the other thing I say, always buy predicated on predictable income. Mm-hmm. If you're going to invest in real estate, invest in something, and I can give you thousands of examples, but when 2007 came around, I had 20 single-family homes that were worth a lot of money on paper, and they became worth, 30%
Right.
of what they were in a year. I mean, in essence, I couldn't sell them. I was upside down at the bank. Had the bank forced me to pay off the note, I could have written a check. So then, of course, they don't force you to do that. They only force people who they shouldn't be forcing to do that kind of thing. But so if you're conservative and you have cash reserves, like what happened? So I had these 20 houses, but they were all rented, and so I didn't really care what the value of them was on paper,
Right.
other than the fact that the rental income was there. In fact, it went up because there were more people looking for rentals. And so what I did was I looked around and I said, wow, I can buy these for 30 cents on the dollar. And so I just bought a bunch more. And, basically dollar cost average down. And then when I just actually recently sold all of my single family earlier this spring. But that's no indication of value. Those homes would be worth more today than they were 6 months ago, and they'll be worth more in 2 years. It's just I've sort of graduated beyond the single family home and apartment type deals to, bigger stuff. And that's just a headache for me. But, for most people getting started, if they want to buy something, just do it predicated on what it will really rent for. That's always the safest way to go.
And John, you always taught me buy quality, right? I mean, you look at return on income, or, return on investment, and you always buy quality items that that if it all hits the fan, have value.
Yeah, they say the three most important things in real estate are location.
Right.
Right. And so I believe that to a degree. I do not like the main, downtown Ann Arbor core type stuff because you're paying so much for that security. Now, if you're a family office and you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, it may make sense to buy something for cash in Manhattan and get a 5% return, and you're happy with that because you don't really care. Right. But for most of us, working stiffs, you got to buy the B plus, C, anywhere from like C plus to B plus type stuff. And what you really want to avoid are areas where, like for instance, when I got started, I owned a lot of houses in the city of Ypsilanti. And Ypsilanti is a great place to own rentals, but not in the city.
Right.
You want to have them in the township because the city suffers. Their taxes are so high, and that's what you get in Jackson and other places like that. When you get these micro economies where the property values are dropping, the only way for the government to get more taxes, obviously, is to raise your millage rates. Right. And so now that keeps your property values even lower because nobody wants to move in there and pay, $8,000 a year for a $50,000 house. And so, it just gets worse and worse to the point where it's almost some kind of weird, they have to fix it. They got to fix the way they do property taxes. It's a grossly inadequate tax on the rich, and it keeps the poor poor. It's really not fair on either end of the spectrum. It's just a bad model, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't comment on that stuff. I just work within the parameters I've been given. But anyway.
Folks, we're speaking with John Bogdasarian. He's CEO and founder of the Promanus Group. They are a privately held real estate investment firm. John, how can folks get in touch with you?
So it's our website, my email. We have, you can just email IR for investor relations at promanas.com, which is just like pro-man and then an AS on the end. You can call our office at 734-477-9400. We're, happy to help anybody we can with anything we can help with. That's sort of just the general philosophy. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. There's a lot of situations we get into where we say, look, we're not right for this, but here's the right person to talk to about this particular situation, or if you're trying to do that.
And you have clients from all over the country.
Oh, yeah. We have developments now all over the country. We have clients in every corner of America, I would say.
John, as a general rule of thumb, what are the couple red flags that you look for if you're looking at a real estate whether it's a single family home or a big project? When you see a certain type of red flag, what makes you go stop and wait?
So I would say the number one thing that we look for when we're the number one thing that comes up the most. I mean, all this happens all the time. We'll look at 100 deals, and at least 90 of them, somebody's presenting us something where the numbers are the projections are way higher than what the reality is. Mm-hmm. And so what I always tell people, if you're looking to do real estate deals or invest in real estate, one of the challenges is knowing what those numbers should be. So if I'm going to buy a single family home in Ann Arbor and it's, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, whatever, or develop it or build it or whatever, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Somebody comes to me and they say, well, we're going to be able to get, $3,000 a month in rent for this, and we're going to have expenses of 20%. And so I look at all those numbers and I say, well, that ratio is just way out of whack. One, you're not going to get $3,000 a month in rent. You're going to get $2,400. Two, your expenses on single-family homes are going to run you 45 to 50%. I don't care who you are. They're very expensive because, you have one unit, you have one roof. It's not like an apartment complex where you have one roof over like 50 units. Mm-hmm. You have So you got to know those expense ratios, and that's what we come across all the time. So the first one is we come across projections that are rosy, and everybody's trying to create a picture in order to make the deal happen.
Right.
We tend to look at the other way. We say, how bad can this get? What's
right.
Yeah.
What's my downside?
Let's make it look.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's my downside?
Yeah.
How are we going to lose? How are we getting screwed here? And then if everything checks out on that basis, and we're still going to make a reasonable return, then fine. We'll go forward with it. The other thing I see most investors do is they get into things with really pretty packages, fancy marketing brochures, and really sexy deals like restaurants and. Golf courses are notorious, or my buddy's buying 12 car washes, and I'm excited about that. And, whatever it is, it's like what we say, the fancier the packet, the worse the deal, the sexier the deal, the less likely it is to make money. It's just, real estate's boring. I mean, frankly, to do it right, it's boring. It's like, I have ugly industrial buildings. If you looked at a picture of our portfolio, you'd say, "Oh my gosh, you own that?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And it pukes cash. Right. I mean, because it can't be wiped out by the internet, right? You can't manufacture a car on the internet.
That's right.
You can't build airplanes on the internet. We have aerospace tooling companies. We have, and you can't live on the internet. I mean, you can metaphorically, but you need a roof over your head. So we buy things that. We don't do a lot of retail because we just can't really get our head around that. And frankly, I can't figure out if packages are going to start dropping out of the sky or not from Amazon. But
John, I'd like to thank you for everything you do. Folks, I encourage you to contact John and his organization. They're the best. Trust me. I've utilized their services for years. Promanas, PROMANAS.com, 734-477-9400. They'll help you no matter where you live in the United States or, frankly, around the world. They're the best in the business. John, thanks for everything that you do. Folks, you're listening to Operation Freedom. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from our Freedom Bunker.